Okay, so hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies. And yeah, lately I've gotten kind of personal and political on my YouTube channel, both. And I try my best to keep my YouTube away from politics as much as possible, but times like this, I just cannot completely stay away from politics. And a few people subscribe to me because of the politics. But if you're here for the movies, the music, for the TV shows, the songs, the albums, well, today I can't go out. I can't go out tomorrow. It's crazy on the streets. So I'm gonna stay at home. I'm gonna watch movies, and I'm going to do a movie review on 3 movies that I've watched and 3 movies that I think could potentially end up in my decade and top 50 movies list. So the 3 movies are going to be La Piel Que Habito, which is The Skin I Live In by Pedro Alvadomar. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry if I mispronounce anything, because all 3 of the directors that made these 3 movies are not like American or British. One of them's Argentinian, one of them's Danish, and one of them is Spanish. I'm also going to be talking about Enter the Void by Gaspar Noé, and then Melancholia by Lars Von Trier, or in Danish, Lars Von Trier. Anyway, we'll start off with the big movie first. La Piel Que Habito, which I think is the better one of the 3. And this movie, it's surprisingly entertaining. It's not one of those slow burn art house films. It is a drama. It is a thriller, not necessarily horror, but thriller. And it's actually kind of entertaining. It's also kind of sickening and kind of disgusting, because this movie is about a surgeon, a very famous surgeon who is known to be good at transplanting skin. And it's about how he does these things to his patients and how they turn out. And that's all I can say about this movie, because if I tell you what this movie is really about, I'm gonna accidentally spoil something, because the whole premise is actually based on that spoiler thing. So it's almost like Parasite, where if I tell you the real premise of the movie, then then the movie is spoiled for you. This movie is, again, pretty entertaining, also kinda gross and disgusting, and the plot twists in the movie, they are really impressive. I didn't see this coming, especially for such a ridiculous twist. But basically, something happens in the first 1/3 of the movie, and then you go back in time to see all the things that had happened before that, and then you realize something because of that, and people and things are revealed, and it's like, ugh. I guess my favorite thing about this movie is that it tests our sense of morality, because both the main character, played by Antonio Banderas, and his patient also had done things that are immoral, and watching them two interact and being together is like trying to adjust the line of morality, because this movie is, I think, ultimately about where do you draw the line when it comes to morality? How far are you going to go and it's still moral? Definitely not legal, but still moral. How far would you go? And that's all I have. All I have to say about the movie. That's all I can say about the movie. It's a very emotionally challenging and morally challenging movie that is very entertaining, and I think it's pretty great. Pretty great. Love the performances. The plot is, woof. And I'm saying this movie is worth watching. Kind of mind blowing, actually. The plot twist and all. And I am giving this movie a strong 8 to a light 9 out of 10. And then for the second movie that I'm going to be talking about, it is Melancholia by Lars Von Trier. Lars Von Trier is one of the most controversial directors of our times. He's from Denmark, and he had made quite some good movies. Like Dogville, very famous for its minimalist set. Also Dancer in the Dark in collaboration with Icelandic singer Björk. And he also made like very just R-rated, controversial, polarizing, disgusting movies like Antichrist. It's like the modern day Salo. And he also made movies like the two-parted Nymphomaniac movies. And recently, The House That Jack Built, which isn't great, but I'm going to talk about Melancholia here. He made a trilogy called the Depression Trilogy, and it's actually 4 movies because the last movie, Nymphomaniac, is split into 2 parts. But Melancholia is the second part, with the first part being Antichrist. And Melancholia is about a woman named Justine who's about to have a wedding with Alexander Skarsgård's character. And the whole wedding just crumbles. And Justine has severe depression. And at the same time, there's this planet called Melancholia about to crash onto Earth. So there's this impending doom happening in the background. And that's the movie. It's really abstract, really weird, and it's not very accessible. This movie is very much not accessible. This movie is not a good time movie, and it's morbid, it's sad. Without spoiling much, I can say that everyone around Justine sort of falls apart because Justine is in a dysfunctional family. She's really sad all the time and depressed all the time, but nobody really cares about her. Nobody really saw that she needs help, and nobody tried to lend her help. So Justine feels very lonely throughout the entire movie. And we also have the impending doom in the movie, which is actually a really good plot device because ultimately, when you have depression, it's different from sadness. It's very, very different. Sadness is like a spike of negativity, while depression is like a very long, dull, straight line. And with depression, nothing matters. Nothing about life matters because we're all gonna die anyway, so why bother, marrying this guy? Why bother, having a job or having good family relationships when we're all gonna die? So this movie kind of explores that, and this movie portrays depression in a really accurate way. I'm actually kind of impressed. And for the directing style, I'm not a huge fan of the directing style, but it's still pretty well directed. This movie has a choppy feel to it, almost like The Office, except it doesn't have the crash zooms and all of that. It tries to be realistic, and the editing is really choppy. However, occasionally there are shots in the movie where it gets super like grandiose and larger than life, and just I'm gonna say orchestral, but visually orchestral. Like every single element of that frame feeling just as important. And then there are many shots in the movie where there are stuffs in the frame that is not much important. It tries to be realistic. It tries to look like almost like a documentary at some point. Yeah, still, it's a very artsy film. Not for everyone. The ending is, I'm not gonna spoil the ending, but the film is called Melancholia, so why would you expect a happy ending? And I think Kirsten Dunst's performance as Justine is fantastic as well, and yeah, it's a slow burn too, so there's that. I am giving this movie a strong 7 to a light 8 out of 10. And it's a movie worth watching. Maybe it'll grow on me, maybe not. Who knows? Maybe it'll end up in the honorable mentions. Third movie I'm going to be talking about, also super artsy, it's Enter the Void by Gaspar Noé, an Argentinian-French director who had made very disturbing movies like Irreversible, and also recently Climax, which is a movie that I love a lot because of how nightmarishly intense and insane this movie is. But anyway, Enter the Void came out before Climax, like way before Climax, around 2010, 2011-ish. And the movie is about a character dying in the beginning. He died. And he becomes a spirit and he sort of floats around Tokyo, and he sort of visits his friend and his sister, and he also revisits some of the most important moments in his life. And not necessarily as entertaining as Climax. I'd say this movie is more meditative and levitative because it's very spiritual, because throughout the entire movie you're literally in the main character's perspective when he's alive in the beginning, when he's a spirit, when he revisits the past. You're sort of in like a meter apart behind his back, and you sort of sees what he sees. That is really cool. And when he's alive, whenever he blinks his eye, like the frame just chops. It's awesome. I feel bad for the editor for the movie. And all the flying through walls, flying through ceilings as a spirit, all that stuff. It's amazingly done. And when it comes to colors, Gaspar Noé's colors are often very stimulating and very epileptic and very sharp as well. And that's what I also really love about his films, is that it's like the neon lights of Tokyo City, like cyberpunk, but way more evil and way more stimulating and sharp. I love the opening sequence for this movie. I watch it many times in YouTube because it's, I think, one of the best opening sequences for a movie ever. And when it comes to the plot, it's I don't want to spoil much again, but very morbid, because the main character literally died. Like in the very beginning of the movie, very morbid, very spiritual, and it really talks about the meaning of life and meaning of family, brother-sister relationships, and it explores themes like that very well. And this movie is also very trippy and nauseating, so it may not be everyone's taste. And the ending of the movie is very thought-provoking. Some people, I don't want to spoil it to you, but some people think that he sort of revisits the first moment when he's born, but I would like to think that it is reincarnation, like he's born into another life, like he completely died and now he's gonna live another life. And that's all I have to say about Enter the Void. I'm saying this movie is migraine inducing. It's worth watching. And I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10 as well. So, have you watched these 3 very artsy movies? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate them? Like if you like them, hate if you hate them, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. I'm gonna try to watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and The Lighthouse and Uncut Gems and Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit and Knives Out and Ford vs. Ferrari as soon as possible, but none of those movies except for Knives Out and Ford vs. Ferrari are showing in Hong Kong, and I can't watch movies in Hong Kong, like in theaters, anymore.